Good morning and good evening, friends all over the globe. I know that in today's session, there are people who have joined this webcast from various parts of the globe. And I was also told that many of you have joined recently, but there are some people who have joined us almost like 6 months back as well. So, amongst the participants, there are some people who have already experienced Tech Mahindra and also have seen some of the competencies that are in play at Tech Mahindra. So before opening the PPT, I just would like to share some broad thoughts about our organization and the way we are structured so that you would be able to relate to the competency part somewhat directly. As you know, we will be announcing the results for the last quarter, that is the quarter January, February, March 2014, which happens to be the last quarter for the previous financial year in a few days from now. But we know that we are approximately around $800 million per quarter. That is, we are at a run rate of, let's say, $3.2 billion at this point of time. And all of you must have heard repeatedly that we have taken a target like a $5 billion run rate by end of 2015 calendar year. That is the quarter ending December 2015, which means we have 7 quarters to reach that magic number, $5 billion quarterly run rate multiplied by 4. So we don't need to really get scared to look at that kind of a number, because we have also heard repeatedly from leaders like CP that we are also looking at M&A opportunities. That means we will be possibly looking at acquiring a few companies. And if you ask a direct question of how much will be the acquisition revenue in this 5 billion, you can assume something like $1 billion would be coming from the inorganic growth. So that means from the 5 billion, if you subtract the 1 billion, we are actually looking at $4 billion run rate actually, which is 1,000 million per quarter. And we are already at 800 million. So that should give you some kind of a confidence that we are not looking at impossible targets. We are definitely looking at reasonable stretch targets, that is 800 million to 1,000 million over 7 quarters. So that is not a huge ask quarter on quarter. But we should also remember that nothing can be taken for granted as far as the existing revenue is concerned. No customer is promising us that he or she would remain with us for lifelong actually. So we need to fight to make sure that we retain the existing business, and on top of it we make a healthy growth. So that is the kind of a game that we are in, because at every customer that we are dealing with today, there are definitely competitors who are very eager to snatch the business that we are doing today. So we need to continue to excel. We need to make sure that the delivery remains top class. And at the same time, we also need to look at our competitors' pie at each of our existing customers. Why I'm emphasizing on the existing customers is that almost 96 to 97% of our business every quarter is coming from the existing customers. If you want to know the definition of the existing customer, it is those customers who have been with us for more than 1 year. They're all referred to as existing customers. The new customers are those who have been with us for 12 months or less actually. So in that kind of a computation, 96 to 97% of our business is coming from the existing customers. So it is very important to retain the existing customers, grow aggressively the existing customers, expand our portfolio. If we are doing a few competencies with our existing customers, we need to be, first of all, be very knowledgeable about what are the other service offerings that we can possibly sell to the customers. So a lot of cross-selling, a lot of upscaling is an absolute must. So in this context, the sales organization and the delivery organization needs to work very, very closely. Apart from that, the competencies, we'll be discussing today predominantly about various competencies that we have, and how we need to get advantage of those competencies, how we need to make sure that from the sales angle we would be in a position to forecast what kind of things that are being expected from our prospects and customers, so that we'll be able to make the right investments in our organization. As long as there is a good business case that is made, our organization is not afraid to invest in competencies. Obviously, in today's context, we are seeing every 3 years or so, the technology platforms are changing. All of us know that technology is changing, but if you actually put some numbers there, metrics around it, and then see it, I'm able to see 50% of the revenues today are coming from competencies which did not even exist 5 years ago. So that means if you take a snapshot of our revenues and the kind of split competency wise 5 years ago, and compare with our situation today, the 50% of revenues are coming from technologies which didn't even born 5 years ago. So that is the speed at which things are actually changing, things are moving. So are we moving also from the competency and investment point of view with the same speed or better speed, to ensure that we catch up with our existing customers and we grow in a very healthy manner actually? So to all these things, the answer is close collaboration and excellent communication within our organization, because you know that our organization is broadly divided into various delivery groups, which are being referred to as IBGs. Integrated business groups actually. Many of these IBGs are typically in the region of about $100 million or so worth of delivery, and they take full responsibility for customers for many of the competencies which are common across. If you talk about the general application development or application maintenance on various platforms like IBM mainframe or Java open source, or Microsoft kind of a technologies, these are common skills, common technologies. So all IBGs would actually deliver those competency related projects on their own, within their own IBGs. At the same time, we have defined a few specific set of competencies as specialized competencies, and the delivery related to those specific competencies gets delivered in what we are referring as CDGs, competency delivery groups. So the CDGs are common across the organization. For example, if you talk about infrastructure management services, we call it as IMS or IS. That competency gets delivered centrally at Tech Mahindra level. So that means each IBG will not deliver any of the infrastructure management projects. All such delivery is centralized and run centrally by a group headed by Sudhir Nair. That is CDG IMS. Similarly, we have another CDG called engineering services, integrated engineering services. We refer it to as IES. That is headed by Karthikeyan. So Karthikeyan runs all the engineering projects centrally. So no IBG gets a chance to deliver those engineering. If you look at these two examples, engineering services or infrastructure management, you will be able to easily relate to that these are very specific competencies, and it is important to centralize them and make sure that each IBG does not need to invest into these specialized competencies. As we go along, from time to time, we may review all our competencies and decide which of those competencies need to be centrally delivered. And another example to the CDG is a unit we have called CES, that is Consulting and Enterprise Solutions. That is headed by Manish Mehta, based in Chennai, India. And he has two groups, actually two senior leaders, one Sriram K and Kumar BK. These two gentlemen help Manish Mehta in delivering consulting and enterprise solutions. So this is the CDG structure, where the definition is delivery is centralized for Tech Mahindra, and by definition these competencies are very specialized, like as we just discussed, infrastructure management, engineering services, consulting and enterprise solutions. And I have already made a statement saying that all general purpose competencies like ADMS, that is application development and application maintenance on standard platforms like mainframe, Java, J2EE, open source, and also Microsoft .NET technologies. Those get delivered in the individual IBGs. Now, amidst the CDGs and IBGs, I would like to also introduce another concept which we have called CSG, that is Competency Solutions Group. This group is a very specific group where they don't centrally deliver anything. At the same time, they take the responsibility for all the competency development. For example, there is a group called SAP, again Oracle. One more example is BI. Oracle, SAP, and BI, all these three things together belong to what we refer to as Enterprise Business Solutions, EBS. So EBS is a very, very key competency at Tech Mahindra, and that EBS has three large sub-competencies, that is SAP, Oracle, and BI. In fact, amongst these three, there is almost a $500 million economy. That is, this year actually they have taken a target of 600 million, that is FY15. In FY14, they have already delivered 500 million. And these projects also, SAP projects, Oracle projects, BI projects, they also get delivered in the respective IBGs. But there is a centralized important CSG created for SAP, Oracle, and BI, headed by Sriram Papani, who is operating from Hyderabad, and he has three key leaders. Oracle is headed by Gurudat, SAP is headed by KK, and BI is headed by Sanjay Joshi. So these people, their main focus is to come up with the interesting service offerings for future. So where we need to invest, what service offerings are required by our customers. So they do mainly the R&D kind of a work. That is one responsibility. And the second one is they also take care of all the resource fulfillment. This is a very important area actually, because in many of the IT companies where the attrition levels are quite high, in the region of 15 to 20%, etc., we don't want each IBG to start looking at hiring actually. And we have to make sure that the resources are optimally utilized. So for that reason, we decided that for this EBS group, SAP, Oracle, and BI, the entire recruitment is centralized. That is under Sriram Papani's team actually. And they are also responsible for the entire pre-sales at Tech Mahindra. So that means we don't have individual pre-sales for SAP, Oracle, and BI in each of the IBGs. So these competencies are very specialized, because today Oracle is not one competency. Oracle has acquired several companies in the last 10 years or so. So once somebody says, do you have Oracle competency, we will not be able to give a very simple answer. Or under Oracle, there are number of competencies, almost close to 100 different competencies come under Oracle bucket actually. So it is impossible for each IBG to start investing in these kinds of competencies. So pre-sales is centralized for EBS. That must be something good for the sales people also. They don't need to really worry about whether that particular IBG, which is catering to the requirements of a customer, does it have the complete set of the offerings. So good thing is that the pre-sales is centralized, resourcing is centralized, but actual delivery is decentralized in the IBGs actually. So that is a broad definition of our IBGs, CSG, and CDG. I would like to also add one thing, saying that in the last 12 months, Tech Mahindra has been focusing very heavily into digital enterprise solutions. We call it internally DES. DES is headed by one gentleman by name Naresh Nagarajan. Obviously, Tech Mahindra, because of the 50% revenues coming from the telecom vertical, has a lot of experience in the mobility, for example, because much of the telephony has gone into the mobile computing, mobile devices, and Tech Mahindra has been a predominantly important player in the mobility space. So when we talk about digital enterprise solutions, mobility plays a very important role. Similarly, in any digital enterprise, analytics plays a very important role. And analytics has been one of the important areas as part of our BI competency. And BI competency has been with Satyam, which was acquired by Tech Mahindra, and BI has been in vogue for almost 15 years. So BI analytics is a very important competency, and that is also playing a very significantly important role under the broad umbrella of digital enterprise solutions. And another key factor under digital enterprises is cloud computing, cloud competency. So cloud also has been with us for almost 3-4 years. So cloud, analytics, and mobility, these three play a significantly important role when it comes to digital enterprise solutions. And we have just created the unit about a year ago, and Naresh Nagarajan is supporting it. That is another important statement that I wanted to make before progressing on to the set of slides actually. So now when we go to the slides, you will be able to relate to it much better. So if you look at the slide, we are here talking about the industry connects. That is, Tech Mahindra, what kind of customers we are going after. So if you look at aerospace, defense, healthcare and life sciences, automotive, banking and financial services, energy and utilities, public services, travel, logistics, telecom, technology, media and entertainment, retail. So you will wonder what kind of things that we are not servicing. In fact, actually speaking, we are dealing with almost all types of customers actually. So most of these enterprise domains have come from the acquisition of Satyam Computer Services. So predominantly Tech Mahindra, before acquiring Satyam, was almost solely focusing on the telecom vertical. Even today, telecom vertical is contributing close to 50% of the total revenues. So the other 50% of the revenues are coming from all these types of verticals which you are seeing on the screen. So in many cases, each of these is referred to as an IBG. Like example, IBG Energy and Utilities, IBG Banking, Financial and Services, IBG Public Services, IBG Healthcare and Life Sciences. Like that, the IBGs were actually distributed. We have distinctly senior people providing leadership to each of these things. So this slide predominantly gives you a feel that Tech Mahindra is focusing on almost all types of customers, all types of domains, and we are eager to grow and bring growth to almost all these verticals actually. Now going to the next one, this is actually okay. Now it is given that we are going after all types of businesses, all types of domains. So what kind of things that we are showing as our competencies, that is the service connects actually. I have already talked about our expertise in various of the specialized technology, specialized competencies, but this slide will give you a good feel. On the left hand side top, we are saying applications, that is application development, application maintenance, which is almost a bread and butter for any IT services company actually. So almost typically 40% of a company's revenues come from writing software, maintaining software. So that is all about applications. Then we are talking about business process outsourcing, that is the BPO kind of a business, that is we are referring as BSG, Business Services Group actually. And consulting is a very important competency in Tech Mahindra. In fact, in consulting, we have specifically two leaders who are providing leadership. One is Hari T. Hari T, based in Hyderabad. He has a group called Business Value Enhancement. BVE is a group that has about close to about $25 million annual revenue. And there is another group, BPM, headed by Mahesh N. Mahesh is based in Bangalore. So between Mahesh N and Hari T, they provide the solutions for consulting. When we say consulting, you can obviously relate to non-technology related consulting, because these small groups will not cater to any specific technology related thing. You can imagine this is a strategic consulting or high level domain consulting, which should really bring in more revenues downstream when we talk about the IT work actually. So consulting is a very important dimension. It has been existing for more than 10 years. So the contact leaders are Hari T and Mahesh N. And on the right side, you are seeing engineering services. It is not common to all the IT services companies to have engineering services as a service offering actually. Engineering, when I say, this is nothing to do with software engineering. This engineering is about automotive engineering, mechanical engineering, aerospace engineering. So all the people here in this group are non-software people typically. So they provide analysis and design for many of the engineering disciplines, and it is a very growing area. And it is pertinent to mention an important concept that being a part of the bigger Mahindra and Mahindra group, which is a conglomerate of close to about $19 billion company, which is predominantly in automotive manufacturing, tractors, four-wheelers, two-wheelers, and they have the manufacturing facilities, etc. Having an engineering stream as part of Tech Mahindra, as part of Mahindra and Mahindra, has a lot of synergies actually. So very recently, you must have heard that Tech Mahindra has actually acquired a piece of Mahindra and Mahindra called Mahindra Engineering Services, MES. So that MES itself is a $40 million business, and that is now going to be a part of Tech Mahindra. So that brings the synergies actually, so that all engineering in the group are consolidated. So this engineering services is a CDG, Competency Delivery Group. It centrally delivers engineering solutions, and that is headed by Karthikeyan, and Karthikeyan operates from Bangalore. So at this juncture, please register in your mind that engineering is predominantly automotive and mechanical and aerospace engineering, and this area is really poised for growth. Apart from that, as part of engineering, we also have electrical, electronics, embedded systems engineering. This embedded systems engineering is giving us a very specific advantage. When we say embedded software, embedded systems, many of the connected cars, if you look at any of the four-wheelers and the cars today, there is a lot of automation. There are a lot of electronic segments which are there as part of a car. So all that related work gets done in the engineering stream actually. So you will hear more about connected cars from this engineering group, where a lot of automation through embedded software is being done by that particular group. And then next component is shown there as infrastructure, that is the infrastructure management services group. I mentioned that Sudhir Nair is the one who is heading that group, and this is poised for huge growth. About 10 years ago, nobody predicted that infrastructure management can indeed be delivered from offshore. It used to be 100% offshore. When customers wanted infrastructure services, we used to hire people, train people, and send them to various customer locations on site. So from that kind of a situation, 100% on site, today, thanks to various developments that have happened, thanks to the technology that has come very close, much of the infrastructure piece is also being delivered offshore. If I have to hazard a guess, close to about 50% of our revenues are coming from work being delivered remotely as part of the infrastructure management as well. Now, when you talk about infrastructure management services, there is no differentiation which customers you need to address. Almost all customers need infrastructure management services actually. So whether it is a BFSI customer or a retail customer, banking customer, telecom customer, they will have technology infrastructure which needs to be maintained, and they are looking for cost benefit solutions. And here it comes, more than 5,000 of our associates are providing solutions in this space. We are close to about $400 million revenue coming from this space, and this group always takes the targets which are better than the company average targets annually, because of the opportunity space that is there. In almost all the large deals today, we see definitely infrastructure management as the central piece actually. So many of the large deals are being driven by infrastructure management group. So you need to connect offline with Sudhir Nair and his next level of leadership to know how to go about and selling that kind of a thing. In my opinion, it will be an easy sale relatively, because you can approach any customer and you can talk about a lot of interesting positive experiences that we have created in the last several years. And again, down below you will see a competency called test testing. Testing has become a very important competency in almost all the IT services companies. In fact, in Tech Mahindra also, testing is a very important competency that is being driven by GS Raju. GS Raju operates from Bangalore, and our CEO CP also always challenges this testing group to talk about 100% growth year on year kind of a stuff. So testing is a very different competency. In fact, earlier days, development, maintenance, and testing used to be done together. But then looking at the opportunity where many of our overseas customers are looking at a specific black box and white box kind of a testing, typically using somewhat slightly lower in terms of academic qualifications. You can actually look at testing as a group, because you may not require engineers and postgraduates for all the testing work. You can look at possibly some of the low-cost resources who can be well trained and then deployed onto projects. So typically, customers are also asking us today to come up with different rate structures for the testing projects. So that's where need for automation in testing, using tools, and also joining hands with some of the companies also like HP, CA, IBM, and then coming up with tools so that we will be able to optimize our costs and also deploy somewhat lesser cost resources for the testing. So please believe that testing again is a competency which you can possibly sell to almost all types of customers irrespective of the domain. And the testing group today is also focusing on domain-specific testing. So that means if you're talking about manufacturing-related testing, they are coming up with templates and they're coming up with tools which will actually facilitate test cases which are very specific to that particular domain. So you will hear more and more interesting things from GS Raju's team, but suffice to say that testing is a very important competency for us. It has growth potential very extensively. And then telecom solutions, as I said, 50% of revenues come from telecom. So various competencies, BSS, OSS, NTSS. In fact, you will have a separate session on the telecom specific competencies. I'm not going to touch at this point of time, but we have extensive competencies. No other IT services company would be able to talk about the wide breadth and depth of the telecom solutions that we have. In fact, there won't be any RFP which will not be extended to Tech Mahindra from a telecom player. So we have established that kind of a credibility in the last 10-15 years actually. So you are in safe hands from the sales point of view. Our telecom competency groups would be able to help you out in coming up with various interesting proposals in taking care of the requirements of the telecom customers. And there is a thing that you can see on the slide, DES, that is the Digital Enterprise Solutions. I talked very briefly about Naresh Nagarajan, who operates from Chennai, India. That's where a combination of mobility, analytics, and cloud play a very important role. In fact, many of the digital services are also requesting competencies from security point of view. So how secure are your mobile solutions? How secure are your cloud solutions? In fact, you will be very happy to know that as part of Tech Mahindra, as part of the telecom group, security has been a practice which started almost 10 years back. A gentleman by name Lucius Lobo provides the leadership for security. So security is a very important competency, and under digital enterprise solutions, security is also keenly looked at as a very complementing competency, so that our digital enterprise solutions are security enabled. And then you can also see mobility written there. We have talked about it for almost 7-8 years. The mobile device testing and mobile services. We have also acquired companies like Comviva, which have specialized in providing mobile apps kind of a thing. So this slide actually gives you a complete picture of various competencies that we have. I have talked enough about the enterprise solutions, which is also in the second row, first block. That is the EBS, which talks about SAP, Oracle, and BI as well. So moving ahead, we are actually talking about solution connects. On the first slide, we talked about industries, domains. Second slide, we talk about typical solutions like engineering, infrastructure, and EBS. Now on this slide, you're talking about solution connects. These are an integrated solution, a combination of the competencies and going to the market with a specific solution, like a connected car I mentioned. Actually, the connected car comes from the engineering solutions, but that takes advantage of various other competencies in the organization. So connected car solution will become an integrated solution, connecting different technology competencies across the group, and you will be in a position to talk about the specific. Again, next we are talking about M2m solution, machine to machine integrated solution. Smart grid as a solution, workspace as a solution, workspace as a service that comes from an infrastructure management solution, socio platform. So here, connected healthcare, etc. When you talk to different IBGs, when you talk to different competencies within Tech Mahindra, you will hear that we have a set of complete solutions you can actually take to market, and then talk about providing a cost-effective solution, talking about a workforce which is 80% of the headcount of Tech Mahindra operating from low-cost countries like India, and then you can possibly talk about solutions. I'm not going into the details of each of the solutions, but it is suffice to say that we are investing in solutions which you can take to the market instead of trying to sell individual competencies, like we have so many people in SAP competency, we have so many people in Oracle competency. Solutions actually focusing about a very exhaustive thing for the customers. And as part of our journey in Tech Mahindra, we take advantage of working closely with various partners. Close to 100 such relationships exist in Tech Mahindra. So some of them are technology partners, some of them are domain alliances. So all these things broadly come under alliances, and the entire alliances framework at Tech Mahindra is run by a gentleman by name Preetham. Preetham operates from Pune. So all the alliance partnerships, today we may have 100, maybe in the next 1 year we may have to forge more, maybe another 20 or another 50, and depending on what our customers are wanting, because sometimes our existing customers or the new partners, new prospects may ask us to join hands with some of the partners with whom they may be comfortable with actually. So we are open to look at forging relationships and nurturing these relationships, and it works both ways. Once we have an alliance relationship, we can go and try to sell some of our services to our alliance partners, treating them as customers. We can actually possibly go to the market along with them so that we can possibly sell their offerings, and we jointly come up with solutions taking advantage of their newer products which are likely to hit the market in the next few quarters. Generally, working with an alliance partner gives you that kind of an advantage where you can be exposed to their newer offerings which are likely to hit the market. So we can play with those things, we can test some of those things, and then we will have an advantage of knowing the features of their new products. So some of the relationships like HP, IBM, CA, SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, these are going on for more than 10 years. So we are quite comfortable. Partners are also very comfortable working with us in specific domain areas or specific competency and solution areas. So please remember that alliances play a significantly important role in our journey to expand the revenue streams, and we are quite comfortable, and we have matured frameworks to forge relationship, work closely with them, looking at them from a 360-degree perspective, as I mentioned, looking at them as customers, jointly going to the markets and coming up with solutions which we can actually develop. On the next slide, this is just a pictorial representation of the consolidated offerings. We talked about all of them: enterprise business solutions, the first one, that is SAP, Oracle, and BI; application development and management or maintenance services, that is on IBM mainframe platform, .NET Microsoft platform, on Java open source platform. All those things broadly come under ADMS kind of a thing. And then we talked about infrastructure management services, IMS, integrated engineering services, and business process outsourcing, that is a business solutions group. So all our services can indeed be grouped under those 5 broad headings. And on the right side, on the horizontal side, you're talking about various domains, that is banking, financial services, automotive, and things like that. So it is just a pictorial representation. Now here I'd like to make a few points. This is the EBS construct. I talked about EBS made about $500 million in the FY14, and they are taking a target of close to $600 million next year. And here it is the SAP ecosystem, Oracle ecosystem, and niche player ecosystems actually. So this also is actually looking at varieties of things in tune with the current market dimension. If you talk about SAP or Oracle 5 years ago or even 3 years ago, they were not actually talking about how to enable SAP with a cloud system, how to enable Oracle with a mobility kind of a stuff. So all these products, SAP, Oracle, they are also actually coming up with the solutions which are needed in today's market, where many of the solutions are reaching the end customer, and end customers want to see everything on their mobile devices. So how to mobile enable SAP solutions, Oracle solutions, how to take maximum advantage of cloud as a infrastructure backend for these things. So this is giving a overall picture that EBS is looking at, the overall full dimension, trying to bring in the latest features including mobility and cloud, and we are also joining hands with our partners in this area. The next one, here they're talking about productization, virtualization, and mobility. This around the EBS kind of thing I just mentioned also. Mobile enablement, virtualization, and productization of the features. And you definitely need to have detailed conversations with the Sriram Papani's group, that is Guru Dutt, who is heading the Oracle, Sanjay Joshi is heading the BI practice, and KK based in the US, he is providing the leadership in SAP. It is very important for you to delve deep into SAP, Oracle, and BI. You cannot just afford to ignore. And all these were positive elements of the Satyam piece of the whole thing. So now in the last couple of years, we are trying to take these offerings to each of the telecom players. Because before the acquisition of Satyam, none of these services were available for Tech Mahindra. Now SAP, Oracle, BI are sizable chunks of service offerings. So how to take them to the telecom players is a very important thing, a focused attempt. Customer by customer, we have plans actually how to sell these solutions. Of course, in many of the customers, whether it is an SAP shop or Oracle shop. So depending on what the customers are actually using, we will be in a position to provide solutions in a very comprehensive manner. Now, this actually is a very top-level overview of SAP practice. How many people are there? We're close to about 3,700 people, and we have recently acquired a company based in Brazil by name Complex. Complex is a SAP shop, and it has about 400 people. So 3,700 plus 4,400 is about 4,000 people as of today, and we have presence in about 35 countries where we are developing and installing SAP packages, active engagements more than about 100. And so this is a very quick snapshot of how many verticals they are dealing with, solutions, COEs. So this slide alone will not give you much information. You need to have a separate session. I'm sure Vikram will be able to facilitate depending on your requirements, specific groups. Similarly, these are some of the practice highlights. I'm not going into the details here. That means for oil and gas, automotive, manufacturing, SAP has specific solutions. That's what it is trying to say. Similarly, you can look at the next slide on Oracle practice overview, all the statistics about how many people, how many countries. So this only says that we are a sizable partner here, and our customers can definitely trust us in giving us assignments in these areas, and we are also investing along with the partners to make sure that our service offerings are very robust. So that is about Oracle, and this is a comprehensive thing about Oracle solution portfolio. In fact, even prior to the Satyam acquisition, Tech Mahindra has a solid Siebel practice. Siebel was purchased by Oracle, and so about 1,500 people are there in the telecom group of Tech Mahindra, providing specifically Oracle CRM solution in the form of Siebel. In fact, at EBS, at a company level, there are about 10,000 people, I can say. And next is the BI analytics practice. This is again the growing area. Analytics and big data is really becoming prominent in terms of actual revenue that was made. It is maybe something close to 10 million or so, but the future belongs to this area. In fact, entire thing about big data is about how typically you can visually display the information that you have captured. So just business intelligence alone is not going to be sufficient. How are you going to analyze that information and demonstrate and then picturize and show to the customers in various forms? So that is the kind of a thing. The data is exploding. The big data is really talking about various packages like Hadoop as an example. So Hadoop we have an alliance partnership with Hadoop. It has very good tools and techniques, and we have close to 20 different alliance partners in the analytics space itself. So this requires again an in-depth 1 hour to 2 hours kind of a session with Sanjay Joshi's team for you to understand all our alliance partners in the analytics area and how big data and analytics we are prepared with. We are at this point of time hiring and training what we are referring as data scientists. This word data scientist itself is a new term which is being popularized in the last year or so. We have actually trained a group of about 30 people about 6 months ago, and they are ready to be deployed. Data scientists are very expensive. Even customers are prepared to pay higher dollars for such people. We have heard on-site rates of even $135 to $150 an hour for data scientists. And even in offshore, we are actually talking about $35 to $40 an hour. So for you, this makes tremendous sense, because all domains, all kinds of customers are looking at analytics, big data, and business analytics actually. So taking advantage of the market scenario for analytics, we are actually at this point of time creating a very specialized unit called Strategic Analytics Capability Unit. In fact, we are also discussing with some of the universities where a lot of research is happening. A couple of professors are also part of this advisory committee. So when I say digital enterprise solutions under Naresh Nagarajan, obviously Naresh Nagarajan has to work very closely with this group under Sanjay Joshi on analytics, business analytics, big data, all that kind of stuff. So we are at this point of time thinking of creating a small focused group called Strategic Analytics Unit, which may cater to the delivery across the organization in a centralized fashion. So the logistics are being worked out, but you will hear more interesting things in this area. Sanjay Joshi is the man to go. And I have, as part of the introduction, I have talked about the importance of IMS and the growth at which IMS needs to be looked at. It's not the company average 20% growth or so. It is actually to be viewed as almost like 40 to 50% growth from where we are, because all customers are looking at infrastructure management services. We have more than 5,000 people, and we are very hungry. We have interesting offerings like Workspace as a service, Sudhir Nair's group, and some of you need to get into the details of these things. Much can be done offshore. That is the very positive thing here. And please remember, IMS has an important piece in almost all large deals. This talks about one such example where for a large customer, how we are able to provide all the statistics. You can see more than 1,100 people, more than 1,100 applications, out of which 550 are very critical applications, 1,200 plus database instance administration, 20 plus petabytes of storage we are actually managing. So the huge statistics. This is for one customer actually. So we can actually talk about this as a case study when we approach some of the important customers. This is a very comprehensive portfolio, including security, networks, end user computing, data centers. We have a couple of data centers outside of India as well. So we can take complete control of the customer's data centers, and we can run it. And we can optimize their costs by shifting some of the work offshore. Next one. In fact, many of the analysts community actually is talking about our services, and they have quoted. So you can go through some of the accolades that we have actually received. How much more time we have? What is the time now?
8:45.
8:45, yeah. So integrated engineering solutions, I have already talked as part of the introduction. So here, this is a very important area for 2-3 purposes. Number one, Mahindra and Mahindra is really giving us a very important avenue to for their manufacturing units. Earlier, Satyam Computer Days 5 years ago, we cannot talk about any manufacturing related expertise. Now that M2m is our parent group, we can take advantage of them. We can access some of the subject matter experts in the automotive and manufacturing areas. We can definitely grow. We are also keen to acquire some companies in this area to have our foothold in some of the geographies and also some of the very niche competencies in the engineering. So engineering is often talked about as a clear differentiator in various forums. Anand Mahindra talks about our engineering services. CP Gurnani always very passionately talks about what could be done here. So in the next slide, just some of the details about the IES service offering: mechanical engineering, electronics engineering, that is embedded systems, mechatronics, mechanical plus electronics, embedded systems, and safety and reliability engineering. So all these people are non-software background people. We hired from specific campuses to get these people. Even the sales side also, engineering sales is drastically different from software sales. So we have recently recruited a few people overseas. Maybe some of the people on this call also are engineering sales people. Very recently there was a conclave conducted in Bangalore, India, where all the sales people assembled for a few days and they talked about FY15 plans. So connected engineering is their motto, their slogan. Engineering, how it is connecting automotives and how it is providing embedded software as a solution. Whether it is energy and utilities or high technology companies, aerospace domain, we are comfortable. We have good expertise here. Connected engineering solutions. So those of you who will be focusing on engineering sales need to necessarily spend not a few hours but a few days, I should say, in trying to understand our capabilities in depth. There are different groups within the engineering group who will be very passionate to share with you and bring you up to speed. And I mentioned as part of my introduction that testing is a very important area. GS Raju's group, this is a growth area. Some of our competition have close to 20,000 people in the testing area. So if you are talking about a few thousands here, there is a lot to be done actually. Again, we can show cost benefit to the customers, and we are also trying to do the testing work in some of the low-cost cities within India. For example, Vizag is a place within India, Chandigarh, Bhubaneswar. These are some locations where you will be in a position to get people at slightly lesser salaries, and that will provide us an opportunity to go and meet the customers and offer slightly lesser rates also. So we should look at testing as a very important area, and it cuts across all the domains. We are TMMI level 5 certified consulting. We are the only company in the globe, or the first company in the globe, that was certified at level 5. This is a testing specific certification actually. So we have extensive process orientation in this. So these are all the next slide talks about various kinds of testings that we have. We are not going into the details, but we have the complete portfolio. We need to make sure that depth is there in terms of more people working in each of these areas. And I have already covered the digital enterprise solutions. I'm not going to talk again, but this is the area, this is the future. Naresh Nagarajan is the leader. He will be connecting with all of you and then trying to bring you up to speed. Things are changing almost every quarter. New packages, new products, new solutions are emerging here, and we need to take advantage of it. The very fact that telecom is 50% of it is already giving us an edge over competition in terms of the access to latest mobile devices, latest mobile applications, and infrastructure group talking about cloud computing. All those things are putting us in a very advantageous position. We need to take advantage of the same. Then the CES as a group, this is one of the CDGs I have talked about. This group is with Manish Mehta. When we talk about ERP solutions under EBS, I talked predominantly about SAP and Oracle. But SAP and Oracle are hugely complex, hugely expensive ERPs. But there are so many small and medium businesses which cannot really afford an SAP package or an Oracle package because of the sheer license costs actually. So the CES talks about solutions, various other smaller ERP packages, that is other than SAP and Oracle. Various other ERP packages, solutions are being provided by Consulting and Enterprise Solutions actually. They have a very specific unit called P2PR, product to production, that is headed by BK Kumar, and they have their expertise in areas like user experience management, which is becoming very prominent, how to design user experience kind of interfaces. As part of the CES, you will hear more. So CES is a centralized delivery piece headed by Manish Mehta. At next level, you have senior leaders like BK Kumar and Sriram K. I'm not going into the details again. These are about specific domain groups. I would like to mention that apart from the technology competencies, Tech Mahindra about a couple of years ago brought a lot of focus on domain competencies, because today many of our customers are not just interested in technology solutions. They are asking about domain solutions where technology is actually a part of it. So recognizing the need of taking and owning end-to-end solutions from Tech Mahindra point of view, about 2 years ago we have started investing into each of the domains. Almost 10 different domains have people who are experts in the domains. They are not the IT people. They are banking experts, financial services experts, retail experts. So we have recruited these people from the industries, and they are actually talking about solutions which will be very much interestingly poised to be implemented at the customers. So in today, many of the large deals that we are pursuing, the front ending is done by the domain people, and then the technology people tag along. So many of the solutions, like a SAP solution, how SAP and manufacturing, and what specific offerings SAP has and for manufacturing customers. So with that kind of a focus, we have these domain groups. So this is a great investment that we have made. Close to about 100 people are working in the domain groups. Recently, there is a leadership change. Till recently, Manish Mehta was providing the leadership for all the domains, and now this is being taken over by one Mr. Vivek Agarwal. Vivek operates from Delhi, Noida area, and he is going to provide leadership for all the domains. We have very senior people for each of the domains already as part of these teams actually. So depending on the areas that you are interested in, you need to have individual conversations with groups like manufacturing headed by Alok Palsikar, then BFSI headed by Ravi Vasantraj, and again energy and utilities team headed by Indira Suresh. Healthcare, there are a set of leaders. In fact, there are some doctors who are part of our Tech Mahindra Healthcare group actually. You will hear more about Surya Mohan, Dr. Prem Kishore, Anand Jayababu. Those are the people with whom you will be talking in terms of the domain expertise. Retail and the CPG group under Indira Manjuluri, and travel and logistics group. So all these are domain competencies. You can be rest assured that we are making the right investments. So not only in technology areas, but also in the domain areas. Each of these domain people interact very solidly with the respective technology groups to come up with a solution which can be easily sold to the customers actually. So this is at a very high level. I just broadly introduced the groups like IBGs, CDGs, CSGs, and then talked about how different competency groups are investing into these areas, and the domain competencies and the technology competencies, the need to work together. So that is at a very high level, Vikram. So you definitely need to arrange for in-depth group, in-depth analysis, in-depth presentations, depending on their interest. Actually, they would be very happy to make those things.